Okay, so now we're going to look at what are called truncated shapes, and all truncated means is that the top is cut off. Okay, so that word, although it seems kind of like a complicated word, is all it means is to cut the top off. Okay, so what we have with this is that you're given your shape. So in this case, it's a truncated hexagonal prism. Um, so what that just means is that if you had your hexagonal prism where the top or the bottom and the top were parallel to each other, that would be your regular prism. A truncated one then is where it's cut off. Now, how that changes a development question is that the top of that now is not exactly a hexagon. Okay, so the bottom is, which is fine, the same way as we do before, but now the top isn't a perfect hexagon because it's been cut at that angle. Okay, and the easiest way to think about it is if you look at this side here, so between this point and this point is now much larger, much longer than this point and this point, which we know that this one is definitely going to be a hexagon, and this one, if that's going to be longer, can't be. Okay, so we know all the sides need to be the same. So what this requires then when we go to actually do these questions is to start off by drawing the elevation of the plan like we would normally do, except this time we have to put an auxiliary in to see the true shape of the cut surface. Okay, now this is the same as any auxiliary would have done in orthographic, in that it's taken from the elevation, and if it's taken from the elevation, then we need an x1 y1 line, and we have then take our distances from the plan. Now the book here is missing an x1 y1 line, so there should be an x1 y1 line going across here. Okay, so we'd have x1 y1, okay, for that, and we then take our distances. Now actually, so the book is actually missing an x1 y1 line for this, so there should actually be an x1 y1 line, and we know that if you're taking distance on the plan, where they have it in the book here is that the x1 y1 line is actually here. Okay, but we would make sure that that is up above, that we don't want it to be on top. Okay, we need to move this away from this. So what we're looking at then is we have our auxiliary here. Okay, nothing, as I say, nothing different than that. So projected up from the elevation and distance is taken from the plan. And then we will go about doing our development. Now with the development of this, what's changed about this then is that the lengths of the sides now are going to be different. So when we were looking at the ones before, the lengths of each one of the sides were the same, whereas now, because the top is cut off, each one of the sides here is going to be different. So you can see here that they have labeled A, B, C, D, and they are corresponding to the ones over here. So what you have to just make sure here is that in these questions, the labeling is really important, because getting your labels in the right place over here is going to either mean you get it right or you make a mistake and you get it wrong. So what you have then is, if you've labeled it properly, your A here and your A, you'll get your height as it should be. Your B and your F, again, you'll get it right as long as you've done your labeling properly. And each one going around. But just again, make sure to remember that you'll have one side that will be in twice. You'll see here that your A is in the your A is on this side, but it's also on this side. Okay, because when you fold it all up, these two lines have to come together to touch to actually make the shape. What you have then is you have your base down in the bottom, the same way as you would have done it before, so just coming off of the bottom. But this time now you have what we had there for the auxiliary is now sitting on the side of this shape. Okay, now the thing about that is that that shape can be on any one of these, really. Okay, but we like to find the ones that are the longest, which I've said to you kind of as we've been going on, and the longer sides are the ones that are kind of these this cut one here. Okay, so that's the longer one when it comes to doing it. So when you're doing these, just look for the longest edge, and that's the one that you're going to use. Now the most important thing to remember when you're drawing this then is to make sure that it remains exactly the same shape as this. Okay, so what you know is that if this shape is sitting on top of this, you know that it's going to be at a 90-degree angle. So these sides here, so you have your edge here, you'll see that they put in some constructions here. So they put in, let's go back to green here again. So they put in constructions from here to here, from here to here, and these ones over here. And the reason that those constructions are there are to allow for it to be drawn over here. Okay, so you'll see here again that they have the first line, the second line, and the third line, and what they basically give you is a kind of scaffolding to allow you to actually draw this shape, because you know that this is going to be at 90 degrees here. So in this bit here, so in there is going to be at 90 degrees, and then once you have your scaffolding in there, it's just a matter of drawing your two lines out, taking your distances, putting them on, drawing your line across here and putting your distances onto that, and then drawing your shape here. Okay, so that scaffolding is really important. It's going to come up in a lot of the different shapes. So always just think when you're drawing this one to think, okay, can I put in some of these lines to kind of help me to draw when it comes to this, rather than having to think about angles. You could also draw with angles by measuring what your angle is here and then taking off distances with your compass. But this is probably a simpler way of doing it when you go to do it. Then once you have that on it, make sure to put in your dashed lines to show your folds. And again, it's not important that this has to come from a stretch out line like they have here. So this, you don't have to project straight across your elevation into this. You can if you want to, but it's not something that you have to do when you're doing it. So if you want to do it, go ahead and by all means project across. But if you don't want to, just take your distances with your compass from each one of the heights and put your distances onto this with a compass over in this one. That'll be just as right. It's really down to personal preference when it comes to that.